This is the 6th day of the 7-day December 1983 retreat. I thought of a koan to work on today, but since questions about and problems with relationship have come up so frequently in this particular retreat, let us talk about relationship and see if there's time left for the koan today, if not, some other time. Actually, we have throughout our talks touched a lot upon relationship. But the way the word seems to be used most of the time is not relationship with everyone and everything, but relationship with a particular person. Which is quite significant. Either questions about relationship with someone with whom one is living with difficulty, relationship with someone with whom one would like to be living, or relationship that has broken up with someone with whom one was living together or had intimate relationship. How can one tackle this whole question so it doesn't just become a personal thing, but really opens up so that something is seen and understood very deeply, very profoundly, and very universally? How does one enter into a relationship in the first place? How do two people, a man and a woman, or a man and man, or woman and woman, I'm not trying to differentiate this. How do two people enter into a relationship and start living together or seeing each other very frequently? How does it happen? Is it that already lodged in the mind from way back, or more recently, there is the image of a person, of an ideal person with whom one would love to live, whom one would love to have as one's lover, companion, wife, husband? There must be something like this, because so often there is this case of love at first sight, which let's leave that word out. Maybe infatuation at first sight, or an attraction. Infatuation has sort of a slight condemnatory weight to it, and I don't want to express that. Attraction at first sight. And what is that first sight? Is it that the person one sees really comes up to that image one has in one's mind and has had in one's mind for a long time. The qualities, the looks, personality, as little as at first sight is discernible. Very little of it. It is the image that is all powerful. One doesn't know that person. And one will never know that person completely, because there's change going on. But the image is there in the mind and may have been, as the psychoanalysts tell us, introjected images of parents, at least parents who were nurturing, loving, caring, whom one sort of possessed at one time. Because in one way, with a very caring parent or parents, the baby possesses them. In the sense of, except for brief periods, any wish that is uttered by the baby is fulfilled. Mostly by the breast or the bottle. And cuddling, warmth, touch, smiles, taking the ideal case. Because most of the time it isn't like that all the time either. Or there may be introjected images of other caring persons. Maybe there wasn't a caring mother or father, but an aunt, a maid servant who was always there. Or, please don't, if I use male or female, it applies equally to both. Teacher, maybe. Or a movie star. Let's not leave movie stars out. Doctor Who. He's just like my father. And a man comes up like Doctor Who. And is there an immediate attraction to that person? It sounds ridiculous, but it's really, it isn't ridiculous. This is how the mind operates. Remember very clearly being in love with movie stars, and then someone who looks like that, it becomes very attractive. Certain qualities which are all images. There's a precious little real about it. The masculinity or femininity, the expected power to protect one, cherish, nourish one, hold one in the arms, in the big, broad arms. Or delicate. It depends on what the image is. And there is searching for that person in, quote, reality, unquote, that fits that image. And when one sees that person someplace, then what happens? More imagery, seeing oneself with that person in all kinds of situations. And with this imagery, wanting is set into motion, wanting that person, wanting to be with that person in the way as is imagined. And as has been imagined for a long time. It's not a recent fantasy. It may be very, very old. Actually, the image of oneself as a male is ancient. Not just conditioned by how one was brought up in one's particular family, but the particular heritage of the culture in which one lives, the race to which one belongs, the religion, There are religions which stipulate that the father is the head of the household. That's so. It's uncontestable, unquestionable. And growing up like this as a boy, one is going to be the head of the household. Growing up as a girl, one is going to be the servant of the head of the household. And unless this imagery breaks down through breaking, some movement is set into motion by people to break down these images and institute new ones. But I'm sidetracking. The ancient image of the male, the dominance of the male, protective characteristics. Recently in these incredible nature movies that have been made by people who have not just images of animals but have lived with them and taken pictures maybe over years, 10 years, while living with these groups of animals, there is the dominant male who usually defends the territory and herds and possesses the females among many animal species. And jealousy, quote, rivalry fights, whatever you want to call them. Very difficult to do this without anthropomorphizing. But there is battle going on between males over the females. And the one who's stronger keeps them, and the other one trots off. A wounded spirit, often. Seen it with deer, these big antlers. They don't kill each other. Animals don't kill each other over this. It's just a testing of strength, and the other one, the one that's weaker, leaves. Doesn't stick it out until it's killed to prove anything. Likewise, the role or image of the female is ancient. Our brain is not just modern, it's also ancient. Part of the brain of the ancient part of the brain I read and have heard is called the reptilian brain, referring to the fact that the ancient heritages in our programs, which are available upon being triggered, but which can also come into awareness, no matter how deeply buried. Any image can come into awareness. So how one sees in fantasy the relationship with a partner is almost wholly determined by our past experiences. How it was like at home, and we wanted either the same way or totally different. That's also a determination. A reaction against that is, there's no freedom in reaction. Because mom and dad were so conventionally married, and there was so much absence of real love, but they're always the front of the married life, the pretense of everything being all right. One may rebel against all of this rigidity and falseness of the system and live together without that formality. And yet, is there also the absence of possessiveness, jealousy, or indifference? We'll come to that, how that may develop. If one manages to get together, the person one has seen and who really attracts one sees bliss in the presence of this person, living together happily ever after. That person doesn't happen to be married while one waits that out till the divorce has been or one's own divorce has been accomplished, or maybe before the divorce has been accomplished. Almost anything is possible these days. Things are breaking down. These old conventions are breaking down, because there's a tremendous reaction setting in against that too, which one label for one of those reactionary movements is the moral majority. It's to try to reinstate moral values, family, etc. So one does get together. All hindrances have been overcome. And then what happens? Very often, not always, but most of the time, one may realize one is related to an image, and that person isn't that image. That person has his or her own demands, irritability, wants, disagreements, fears, which may not dovetail with one's own. Idiosyncrasies one never suspected, and which rub one wrong. I wasn't in that image. The image was very flat, like a two-dimensional poster. But the person isn't flat. The person is three-dimensional, more than three-dimensional. And there's a disappointment setting in, the original excitement of being with somebody new, particularly if one has come out of a relationship which had been jaded over with images. We'll come to that. So there's this initial excitement of something new. One feels renewed in a new relationship, but it doesn't last most of the time, because one starts remembering these idiosyncrasies of this other person which rub one wrong, or the demands, or the flare-ups, or the obstinacy of the other person not to go along with what I would like. Or the inability to gratify one. Is this why one got together in the first place? To be gratified? The thought of great gratification coming to me through this person. And never really haven't given much thought to the other person, the needs of the other person, which may be quite different from one's own. And one starts remembering incomplete experiences, let's put it this way. Something that isn't whole, that isn't completely fulfilled, completely complete. And one starts remembering, and the thought grates over it. Why can't she be, or why can't he be this way? And one starts also manipulating, trying to make this person over in one's own image. Put conditions on it. Maybe not overt, not verbally, but actually. If you're like this, I'll be like that. Games going on. Little retaliatory games or power plays. I'm taking it that there's no real communication, no real communion. We'll talk about that later. I'm just looking at why do relationships which were so exciting at the beginning, why do they fade and jade over? With what? Isn't it again remembrances? Of ugliness. Lack of gratification. Withholding of gratification. Teasing. Or just misunderstanding the person, not really seeing him or her as he is, but projecting onto that person images. Also from past associations, this person reminds me of so and so, and one projects onto that person what isn't there at all. One can't see the person. All one sees is images. If they're attractive, one feels attracted. If they're unattractive, one starts feeling repulsed, or at best indifferent, no longer attracted. And the whole mechanism of looking for the ideal person is set in motion again. It's never been quiet, actually. Seeing someone, just again, the image, seeing oneself with that person, anticipating, fantasizing the good times that one could have together, and then going out after it. Or if one is in a relationship which is jaded, dead, why is it so? Is the only solution to break it up? Maybe it is. Maybe it is not. It depends on both. Well, one must always examine what is one in this relationship for in the first place. And look at it, and put aside the ideals, if that is possible. It's arduous because they are so powerful, they are so old. And the longing that's connected with this is so old. But this work here, what we're doing. Several people have asked me, is Zen work compatible with relationship, or with difficulty in relationship, or with establishing a relationship? But what is Zen work? What is this thing we're doing if it is not to look at relationship wherever one is, at whatever stage? Zen work, I'm using that word very little, but it's brought up to me because I've used it in the book, sometimes in talking about it, is whatever is difficult, whatever is incomplete, in disharmony, troublesome, difficult, obstacle-like. If this is not the work before, what is it? Is it something in isolation we're trying to accomplish? Then we'd have to stay in isolation forever, because we cannot cope with the daily life, which floods us with problems, which we create, incidentally. So to look at why do I live in relationship? Or how do I live in relationship? What is relationship for me? And to be honest about it. Some people who have looked at this in total honesty, and I'm not saying that only people who verbalize about it are the ones who look at it honestly. Some people do not verbalize or need not verbalize to me about it, but see the same thing. See that practically everything we do is self-centered, is for me and my happiness, my gratification, my fulfillment, or my outlets. Which include also revenge, retaliation, paying back. All of it coming out of this little enclosure called the self. Maybe one of the reasons one seeks a perfect relationship with an ideal person is that maybe these walls of self-enclosure could be broken. And maybe in the first intimacy that happens. One feels there's no enclosure, no dividing screen between two human beings, which is a wonderful thing. But then the enclosure is back. I want more of it, or our daily habits, just the force, the momentum of them, of needing to dominate, or of sheer insensitivity to another person. Not bothering, or not able to, or not even thinking of putting oneself into the skin of the other person. How she feels, how he feels. What his or her needs are. Hurts are. One person asked, what is responsibility? Is there such a thing as responsibility in relationship? Commitment? Is there such a thing as really committing oneself to a relationship with responsibility? And what is it? I always shudder a little bit at the word commitment. There's something harsh and hard-edged and iron-ruled about it. One can commit oneself with vows and vows. I don't have to always say three things. And then what, if one is a vow, how you say, a vow-abiding person, what becomes important is the vow and abiding by the vow. And this one makes one's content of life, one's attachment, to fulfill that vow. And the human being involved in this is of lesser importance. I'm fulfilling my vow. Are you? You're not. I am. And there's no relationship in that. It can be total absence of relationship in a marriage that lasts 50 or 100 years. Because the vows are kept. And why are the vows kept? They can be just, as I said, the person has a knack or a predilection for keeping vows, for being it can be a compulsion not to transgress against rules, deeply instilled in early life or in one's particular tradition in which one lives. Or it can also be sort of a security in that. The vow is going to give me the security in this relationship. Then I can trust that he or she will be mine. He or she will not look sideways, somebody else. I must make this thing safe. So I'll commit myself, and of course I expect the other to commit him or herself too, and then we have something going for us, something safe. But relationship is a tender. It's a thing like flowers. You cannot wire this into anything. Cannot make it safe. It's not fail-safe, foolproof, permanent. These are all ideas. Do you see that? Relationship is something that has to, or can only blossom from day to day if there's no hemming in by possessiveness or mutual domination, which destroys it. What remains may be loyalty, but not a true affection and care, which cannot come out of regulation. It doesn't come out of that. Tenderness and affection and care comes when one feels with the other person, when one is that other person. Because one sees and listens, and there's lots of space, not just this tiny space of my demands and the anger or frustration when they're unfulfilled, but space opening up to the self-centeredness that is going on in oneself, the selfish demands, the anger that goes with it, the frustration. Seeing that, and that can be an eye-opener of why there is no relationship, which one is craving with all one's heart and soul. So just as here in retreat we talk so much about being with whatever is there, a feeling of utter dejection or impotence, inadequacy, weakness, overwhelming fear at times, or a profound joy, as one is with that completely, not trying to make it over, push it away, or wallow in it. Not thinking about it, but being with it. That's a completely different thing. Whether one is with something or thinks about it. When one thinks about it, one is not with it. One is with one's thoughts and images, and alienated from oneself and the person one is living with. So how can a relationship be alive? Not be alive with constant agreement and beauty and fulfillment and gratification, but alive with understanding and free of images, which is, the two don't go together. The images must go. One must face directly oneself and the other person. In terms of no ideals can they put aside. They do so much harm, so divisive. So how can two human beings who live together, or want to live together, communicate? taken out of ideas, or can there be a shedding of facades? Or bringing into awareness the facades and self-centeredness. What I want for myself. To share that, because it's no different here as it is there. And to see that as long as that is solely in operation, there cannot be relationship. One may sort of coast along parallel lines for a while, but collision is bound to happen, particularly when initial infatuation, excitement abates, because the image wears out, the old one, and new ones encrust the real person. One talks about falling in love or making love. Love cannot be made. There's nothing made about it. Falling into it, who's falling? It's when there's no sense of me and my needs, my fulfillment, my gratification, when that is not there. Because it's a nuisance, really. Ultimately, it's a nuisance. When that's not there, I'm not talking about duration of time. And for the first time, one sees another human being. As one may see a flower or a pebble or a tree or clouds, the sky or the rain. In its beauty of wholeness. And in this there's love. But that love doesn't say, please do to me as I do unto you. That's again covenant. Vows. Trying to make something safe. Love is an outpouring of love. Whether something comes in return or not does not strangle that outpouring of love. What strangles is me. I haven't gotten what I deserve, or what I didn't get fair return. I've done all this for him, but what has he done for me? That is one. I don't say don't think that way. We do think that way. But in this, there's just absolutely no love. There's resentment, bitterness, calculation, feeling of hurt, being neglected and all that, which may be a fact. So can one see it as that? Not say he smothered my love. Love cannot be smothered. What is smothered is feelings. Feelings of affection can be smothered. Or can they? Yeah, one may not feel affectionate towards somebody who's been cruel. But can one see the cruelty in another human being as one sees cruelty in oneself? not project, but have this open window. It's not a window, it's openness. There's no glass in there. Really seeing another human being as he or she is. May get on one's nerves, may be annoying. And then why? What annoys me? Let me look. For one thing, I don't want him to be that way. But he is that way. In such looking and questioning and embracing of what is there, it's like a sifting. Or an aerating. I once saw a projected way of aerating sewage. It was amazing. All that was done, it was in a certain area of a certain type of soil where the sewage was blown sky high into the air, like a geyser. And after doing that often enough, the water, and also the water trickling into the earth, being spouted up high into the air, and then coming down to earth and trickling, filtering through the earth. And there was, without any sewage plant, there was clear water available. Just from this aeration and filtering through the depth of the earth. So can two human beings communicate with each other? One may want to do it and really be ready to do it, and the other one may not want to. May say, I don't like to talk. I can't, I don't want to. Leave me alone. At that moment, can one really leave that person alone? Not turn one's back on that person, but allow that person to feel that way, to be that way, in his or her entirety. Not prod, not cajole or try to bait or make feel bad. We could have a relationship if he only would talk. But he doesn't want to talk. She doesn't want to talk. I don't know why. And he's not telling me why. Not under those circumstances, certainly. So what makes for an atmosphere in which each one living together can feel his or her own way? Without needing to defend it, protect it, justify it. But sort of feeling the other person being there. Not to get something out of me, but because I'm here, as I am. I don't like myself really right now. I want comfort. I want to be left alone. That's what it is. I want to be left alone. And yet not necessarily abandoned. So, in relationship, can there be enormous patience? Not the idea or the principle of patience, but patience meaning the absence of pressure to conform, to my image, or any image. The image of a good wife or good husband, good mother or good father. You're not a good father. Other fathers are do such and such. How can I see myself if I'm already hemmed in by criticism? I can't. Well, it's not impossible if there's really looking, and also looking at the defensiveness of oneself. It's never impossible to detect anything. Anything can be detected if one is so inclined, and not just as a hobby, but if one sees this as the meaning of life, to understand oneself, and with that, all human beings and the life on this earth. And in this understanding, in this looking, and not letting up, which doesn't mean I'm never going to go to a movie again. I may not feel like it, that's a different thing. Then do other people think you're a bore, you never go to a movie, or you... But, in other words, no principles. Just really, I need to settle this thing, not once and for all, but right now. I need to look. What's going on? What's happening right now in the midst of feeling so defensive, so hurt, so much like lashing out? What is this? If there is this kind of needing to do this, then anything is a door, is an opening, is a window without any glass. No frame either, no window. And with this relationship at such a time ceases to be a problem. There's no problem. Because at such a time when there's no glass, no frame, no walls, no me, then there's an abundance of love. And that is incapable of creating problems. So in the midst of uncertainty or pain, worry about relationship, about myself, my future, who am I? Or what is it? What is me? Or just the breathing. Attending. Listen. Listen. We'll end here for today.